August the 9th, 2010. Gemma Hayter, a young woman with a learning disability, is found stripped, stabbed, and beaten to death on the bank of a disused railway line in Rugby, Warwickshire.
What they did was so atrocious, murdering a vulnerable, innocent, naive young woman. It's the most heinous type of crime you can commit.
Chilling video evidence shows how Gemma's friendly, trusting nature meant she had no idea that people who attacked her were anything but her friends.
For us to watch that, it's quite hard because that's my last memory of Gemma, seeing her being walked to her death, knowing that she had no idea that's what was about to happen. She thought she was going home.
Britain's Darkest Taboos reveals the shocking true stories behind the most horrific acts of familial crime, including torture.
I was torturing my sister. The axe actually entered her skull.
Abuse.
He'd sexually defiled George's body after her death.
And murder.
When he was strangling her, did she think in her head, I want my mum, where's my mum?
Rugby, a Warwickshire market town in the heart of England. It's here that on the 13th of September 1982, Gemma Hayter is born.
The day she was born, I ended up ringing the maternity hospital to say, I don't feel right, but even though I've had 2 children, I don't know whether I'm in labour or not. About 9 o'clock, I wanted to push, so my husband, Gemma's dad, flew off to see their sister, and all hell broke loose, and she was born at 9:10.
I was really excited. I couldn't wait to have a little sister. She was very cute when she was little, very strong, but very cute. She had wiry, sticky up hair and a little turn in her eye.
She was the youngest, and there was a 7-year age gap between Gemma and Neil, and a 10-year age gap between Nikki. And they'd been so looking forward to having this little playmate and that. She was so funny. She used to put herself in really silly situations, but yeah, she was always very, very loving, very, very affectionate.
Gemma's a happy and well-loved baby, but her mother is worried about how she's developing.
I knew there was something different. She wasn't reacting in the same way at all to anything. She was happy, but she wanted your attention all the time, and she seemed to be in her own little world a lot of the time.
Doctors confirm the family's fears and tell them Gemma has a learning disability.
Gemma was incredibly loving, forgiving. We were never told what exactly was wrong with her, apart from she had learning difficulties, behavioural problems.
She didn't talk, she didn't sleep, her sleep patterns were wrong, everything. The way she, just digested the world wasn't normal.
I'd already had 2 children, so she was very much harder. And I was really, really worried from a very early age that there was something wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
She was happy, yeah, Gemma was always happy. She was oblivious to the chaos she was causing, to be fair. We were the ones that were a little bit shocked at her actions.
Gemma is young for her years and has a friendly and trusting nature.
Absolutely innocent, I suppose, is the best word to describe her. Innocent, naive even. She'd meet one person once, and the next time she'd meet them, she'd throw her arms around them as if they were best friends and have known each other for years.
But as she gets older, Gemma's differences become more noticeable. She's bullied at school. and finds it hard to make friends.
I went to see this paediatrician at the local hospital, and she did tests and everything else, and apparently Gemma was going through the menopause. She was probably about 13. Then she started putting on weight. She'd stopped growing. She never grew taller than 4'11".
She'd be victim of bullying if we'd be out in the street or at the park. The way she looked when she was younger would get comment, and obviously being the elder brother, I'd be very protective of that.
She was different, she looked different, she acted differently. She never had friends, never made friends at school or anything else.
Psychologist Emma Kenny has worked with vulnerable young people, including those with learning difficulties. She's been looking at Gemma Hayter's case.
Gemma would have been lonely because when you are different, no matter who you are in society, when you're different, you feel that you stand out, and you want desperately to feel the same. She would have seen other interpersonal relationships going on around her, and she would have desired to have those herself.
At the age of 19, Gemma's given a residential place at a special college in North Wales. For the first time, she's away from her family, and she learns how to look after herself.
They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She thrived there. She eventually learnt how to mix with other people, how to cook, how to clean, how to keep herself clean. And they seemed to understand her, and I was so confident with them.
She was looked after up to a certain age. She was in a special school that could look after and accommodate her. She could learn life skills correctly. It was the best place for her. She was happy there.
She had 2 years there with a choice of a third year, but because she was in her early 20s then, she had to make the decision.
Despite her learning disability, Gemma is determined to lead a truly independent life. She decides to leave college and move back to Rugby and into a flat of her own.
I was so disappointed. But, I didn't have a say in it because she was an adult. But we were worried sick about her because I didn't think she'd cope on her own.
She wanted to be independent and living by herself, so there was no control. We couldn't have kept her.
Gemma's family support her as best they can, but Gemma is strong-willed and determined to look after herself.
It's very difficult when she did come back and she was on her own, because you have to take a step back and let her try and get on with it.
The problem with Gemma was she wouldn't let you into her flat. She'd always meet you outside. She was very secretive like that.
She kept herself to herself and always made out she was happy.
She also would only ever tell you what she wanted you to hear. She wouldn't have admitted that she hadn't eaten or anything like that. It'd just be, oh, no, I'm fine.
All through her life, Gemma has struggled to fit in and make friends. But now, in her mid-20s, she meets someone who seems happy to be her friend. Her name is Chantel Booth.
It was fabulous. It was absolutely brilliant. Gemma was going out and having a drink and going round to someone's for coffee. It was the most normal thing she'd ever done in her whole life, and I couldn't have been happier. Gemma would have described Chantel as probably her best friend, that she was nice and they did everything together. And how I felt about Chantel was that there must be something about this girl, some kindness in her, to have befriended my sister.
It was obvious that Gemma had learning difficulties, obvious to anybody and everybody. And for somebody of Chantal's age to spend time with Gemma, I thought that was really nice of her and really good of her.
Just knowing that there was somebody, she was a lot younger than Gemma, but mentally Gemma was a lot younger than her, but somebody choosing to spend their time with her was amazing. It was a breakthrough. I never thought that would happen.
But as time goes on and Gemma's family learn more about Chantal, they're concerned she's taking advantage of Gemma.
It came to light that Chantal was taking money off Gemma. So Gemma would have been aware that that was happening, obviously, but she would have thought of it as giving her friend money, helping her friend out. She wouldn't have had any idea that Chantal meant any, bad stuff with that. But Gemma thought the world of Chantal.
Gemma didn't have an understanding of what good friendship was because she hadn't had them before. So when the first one arrived, she didn't have anything to navigate in the past to see whether it was a good relationship or a bad relationship. She just saw it as a friend. And I would imagine that for Gemma, that was so important that no matter how she was treated within that friendship, it was more integral and important for her as a person to have a friend than to be concerned about how she was treated within that friendship.
Saturday, August the 7th, 2010. Gemma visits her mum, then heads off on a night out in Rugby with Chantal and 4 other friends.
She said, right, I'm going. And she gave me a kiss goodbye, kissed her nan goodbye. And as she's going out the door, told her I loved her, and she shouted back, love you too. And that was it.
It's 11:30 in Rugby town centre. CCTV cameras zoom in. One of Chantal Booth's friends, Duncan Edwards, berates Gemma. Another friend, Joe Boyer, in the striped shirt, joins in. All to the apparent amusement of Chantal. But they haven't finished with her yet. Chantal grabs hold of Gemma and drags her away. Duncan Edwards follows. The rest of the group, Daniel Newstead, Jessica Linus, and Joe Boyer, stand and wait. Former Detective Superintendent David Swindle has investigated some of the UK's most notorious crimes. He's been looking into Gemma Hayter's case.
That incident shows volatility. It shows Chantal being abusive towards Gemma. It shows her pulling her, dragging her, pointing at her, shouting at her. And what that indicates is this is more than just abusing the trust of a poor, innocent, vulnerable person. This is physical abuse.
An hour later, Chantal is again caught on camera abusing Gemma. She then marches off, leaving Gemma all alone and distraught. In the days that follow, more disturbing footage will emerge as the abuse of Gemma escalates, with terrible consequences.
Gemma looked as if her face had been used as for target practice, basically. From here to here was black.
Gemma Hayter has a learning disability. All through her life, she's been marked out as different and has struggled to make friends. But in her mid-20s, all that changes when she meets Chantal Booth.
Gemma would have described Chantal as probably her best friend. Just knowing that there was somebody paying attention to her and wanting to spend their time with her was amazing.
But in reality, there's a dark side to the relationship. Chantal's bullying Gemma and taking advantage of her trusting nature.
The way that she drags her off demonstrates that she has no care or consideration for her feelings. She actually enjoys potentially watching what's happening to Gemma. And the way that she pulls her down that road, it suggests again, she treats her like a dog. She knows that just like any loyal animal, you can kick it and it'll stay by your side.
Monday, August the 9th, 7 a.m. 2 days after CCTV cameras film Chantal and her friends bullying Gemma, a body is found by a disused railway line just outside Rugby Town Centre. An early morning jogger raises the alarm.
I was called around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, I think. You know, it was a Monday morning, so I was on duty. Got called early and attended the disused railway line as one of the first detectives to arrive at the scene. And it was obvious to me that it was a homicide, and I took charge of the investigation.
Police identify the body as Gemma Hayter. Her family are given the devastating news.
They said we found the body of a young woman on the old railway embankment, and I sat down. I think I bang sat down, and they said that it was Gemma.
There was me, my brother, my mum, stepdad and Nan, and that's when they told us that she was naked, and that she was lying face down, with her feet on the path and her head in the undergrowth, and that she'd been severely beaten. So that's all we knew.
That stage of the whole process was a bit of a blur to me. I've just lost my little sister. I wasn't. I was absolutely heartbroken. Of all the things I never said to her.
Everything until I went to bed, I think, is a complete blank, and then I broke my heart when I went to bed.
Gemma's family, struggling to come to terms with what's happened, are asked to formally identify her body. Gemma has been stabbed and beaten to death.
My son decided there's no way he could go in and see his sister. He just broke his heart, absolutely broke his heart. Mum, Nikki and I went in, and the only way that I could describe it was Gemma looked as if her face had been used for target practice, basically. From here to here was black. It was just awful, absolutely awful. Nikki nearly hit the floor.
Yeah, it was my little sister. You know, and all the marks were there, and it was obvious what had happened to her. But the worst thing for me was watching my mum and my nan be in that room with their daughter and granddaughter, and watching my mum kissing her daughter who was dead. She'd never had to have seen that.
That just broke my heart outside, because I could hear my mum literally howling in tears at the state of her daughter, and I didn't want that. I didn't want that memory.
A murder investigation is underway. The area where Gemma's body was found is searched, and her phone records are checked.
We were trying to build a picture of Gemma's life. You know, where did Gemma go? What did she do? Looking at phone evidence, see who she was with, where she was visiting, and that led us to know that she'd been in regular contact with Chantal Booth.
Police go through hours of CCTV and recover footage showing Gemma with Chantal and 4 others just 5 hours before her body is found. Chantal and the other 4 are tracked down and taken in for questioning.
There was some suspicion around their involvement with Gemma, so they were arrested on suspicion of murder. That was on the Tuesday, the 10th of August. Then, obviously, interviews took place with the group, and on the Thursday evening, all 5 were charged with the murder of Gemma Hayter.
The 5 are Duncan Edwards, Joe Boyer, his girlfriend Jessica Linus, Daniel Newstead, and his girlfriend Chantel Booth. Gemma's family are shocked and devastated that among those charged with her murder is her best friend.
I got a phone call from the police on the Thursday saying that they'd got the 5 people in custody. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was her. I couldn't believe it was Chantal and her friends. I suppose we just thought, she'd been out and somebody had befriended her and, come with me, Gemma, sort of thing. Never would have, in a million years, would have thought that it would have been her friends.
As the shocking, almost unthinkable news sinks in, police sift through evidence and start to piece together Gemma's final hours. The 5 friends charged with her murder are held in custody, but show little sign of remorse.
The defence is in custody, all laughing and joking, thinking it was a bit of a joke. I think they thought that, it was all going to go away and they were going to get released.
They blame each other, and each refuses to accept any responsibility for Gemma's death.
They were all trying to mitigate their involvement in what had gone on, blaming other people for certain things. But for me, it's quite clear they all acted together. They all had a duty of care to Gemma, and they just acted like a pack of animals in what they did.
The trial date is set, and the full scale of Gemma's betrayal by people she trusted and thought were her friends is about to emerge.
And they made her drink urine from a beer can. They bounced her head off a radiator and broke her nose with blood all over the radiator.
Gemma Hayter, a 27-year-old woman with a learning disability, has been found dead. Her best friend, Chantel Booth, is among 5 people charged with her murder.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was her. I couldn't believe it was Chantal and her friends. But shock once I realised it was them. And disgust, I suppose.
Police seize as evidence 27 CCTV recordings as they piece together exactly what happened in Gemma's final hours. June the 8th, 2011, Warwick Crown Court. It's almost a year since Gemma Hayter's body was discovered. Duncan Edwards, Joe Boyer, Jessica Linus, Daniel Newstead and Chantel Booth are charged with her murder. They each plead not guilty. Gemma's family hear how she goes to visit her best friend Chantel on Sunday, August the 9th, 2010.
They talked Gemma around into going to Chantal's flat. I think they'd been probably drinking, they'd probably been smoking.
Once there, instead of being welcomed by her friends, Gemma is abused and tortured.
They'd beaten hell out of Gemma and she'd had her nose that badly broken that it was practically not attached to her face. She'd lost a lot of blood because there was forensic evidence of that, and it was all around the bedroom and everything. 2 of the lads had peed into a can of beer, made Gemma drink it.
They bounced her head off a radiator and broke her nose, blood all over the radiator. They taped her with duct tape at some point. They taped all round her so she wouldn't have been really able to breathe. I think that's what happened.
I don't know what else they did. They must have beaten the hell out of her.
I can't comprehend how she was feeling, how scared she was. The absolute terror. The pain that she would have been in.
This is a poor, vulnerable person that is so trusting of society and trusting of Chantal, her best friend. She endured a lot of pain, a lot of humiliation during this torture. Each of their actions is feeding off the other ones, and it's like peer group pressure. It's like animals, it's like a pack of animals going towards picking on the most vulnerable.
It's just before midnight. Chantal and the other 4 friends tell Gemma they'll walk her home. Despite the abuse she's suffered, Gemma wants their help and their friendship and goes with them. They're picked up on CCTV and the footage is shown in court. At first, the family see the 5 friends wearing hoodies as they try to hide their faces. Then Gemma walks into shot. These are the last images of Gemma Hayter alive.
For us to watch that, it's quite hard because that's my last memory of Gemma, seeing her being walked to her death, knowing that she had no idea if that's what was about to happen. She thought she was going home.
The images are haunting and distressing. As the camera zooms in, we can see Gemma has a bloodied nose. Battered and bruised, she's struggling to keep up with the 5 people she still, even now, regards as her friends.
Watching that CCTV, knowing that she has just been tortured, seriously assaulted, with blood in her face, the fact that Gemma still believes Chantal is her best friend, it's horrendous.
She would have been scared. She'd been in a lot of pain as well. She'd have been hurting, but she would have been relieved that they were taking her home as far as Gemma was concerned. So I think she'd have just wanted to keep her mouth shut and head down and just get home.
For the family, the fact that Gemma willingly follows Chantal and the others is difficult to understand and to come to terms with.
I couldn't believe that she'd go with them after they'd done that to her at the flat. She possibly went with them because she still trusted them, but I don't know.
If somebody has abused you, tortured you, humiliated you, the minute you get out of that place, the minute you're on the street, you are going to run like hell. You are going to scream for some passerby to help you. You're going to do anything in your power to survive. Gemma doesn't. Her desire to belong outweighs her desire to survive. And that's the most difficult part of that footage. She follows them willingly to her death.
Gemma Hayter has been led through Rugby Town Centre and down to a disused railway, out of the range of CCTV cameras. The final horrific act is about to be played out.
It was something that they were enjoying, having fun, torturing and assaulting and killing.
And the 5 people accused of murdering Gemma are about to face justice.
Seeing the people that did it, learning of why and how and what they did to her, they needed, in my opinion, putting in a room with me.
27-year-old Gemma Hayter, who has a learning disability, has been found dead. Her best friend, Chantal Booth, is among 5 people charged with her murder.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was her. I couldn't believe it was Chantal and her friends.
The 5 accused plead not guilty, and Gemma's family watch as the court is shown chilling and disturbing CCTV footage of Gemma's final hours.
That's the most difficult part of that footage. She follows them willingly to her death.
Out of range of CCTV, the court hears how Gemma is taken down to a railway embankment, stripped, beaten, stabbed, and left for dead.
They severely beat her down there, kicked her in the head. There was a boot print on her head. There was a stab wound on the back of her neck. They stripped her, unless they made her strip. I hope they didn't. I hope they didn't. But they put bin liners over her head and left her to die.
I can't comprehend why they'd do it. There's no reason why I can think of. Gemma would not have provoked it. She would not have wound them up. She would have been the butt of their jokes.
They were fully aware of what they were doing. They were playing on the innocent, the weakest of the group. It was something that they were enjoying, having fun, torturing and assaulting and killing.
And I think they've all gone into sort of a pack, like a pack of animals, really. I can only describe it as feral behaviour. For whatever reason, they decided that, they were going to cause Gemma really serious harm that night. That is sickening. I just can't understand what was going through their minds that night and why they did it.
Nobody deserves to be attacked because they're different. Nobody. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is, what your religious belief is, what your sexuality is. However, an adult, functioning human being at least can fight. If somebody comes at you and you're ready, you can fight back. She doesn't have any of that. It's kind of a hate crime plus, because she has no opportunity to respond or react. She doesn't understand that they hate her. She doesn't understand that they want to harm her. She just thinks they're friends and this is what they're doing. They're able to dehumanise her because they don't see her in the same light as they see each other. She's so different that they can treat her so differently.
CCTV cameras then show the 5 friends returning without Gemma and without making any attempt to call the emergency services.
This is now 1:27 on Monday the 9th of August. You can see the initial group of 3 walking back the return route back towards Rugby, and you can see Newstead and Booth there, they're walking hand in hand, seemingly without a care in the world. But this time Gemma's not there. But certainly none of that group, who all had mobile phones with them that evening, made any contact with the emergency services. Nobody called an ambulance, nobody called the police. So, the CCTV evidence shows that they were acting together for callous, vicious acts.
Throughout the trial, and despite the harrowing nature of the evidence, the 5 accused show little respect for the proceedings or for the family.
Their behaviour in the court, absolutely unbelievable. No respect whatsoever for what they've done, no respect at all for the court, definitely no respect for the judge, no respect for their barristers.
Passing notes to each other, laughing, joking. They couldn't have cared less. It was as if they, were at some sort of fun fair. No, a total disrespect for the whole system. Gobby in the dock, when it was their turn to speak, they spoke back, they swore, they just awful people.
It's just such a hurtful thing to do, not show any respect at all. Not one of them said they were sorry, not one of them explained why they did what they did.
It must have been really difficult for Sue to actually watch them, and it would have sickened me, I think, showing no respect or remorse. It's beyond comprehension to me.
September the 12th, 2011, the day of sentencing. And the harrowing video evidence shown to the court and the family is at the forefront of everyone's mind.
When Lady Justice Rafferty was recalling the CCTV evidence that had been played a number of times during the trial, after a while, I, for one, could not watch it. Really a haunting image, that CCTV. It's really quite chilling, and obviously it had a bigger impact on the jury and obviously on the judge as well. Another comment from Lady Justice Rafferty: she tagged along, battered in pain and unsuspecting, like a faithful, loving dog, as you walked her to her death.
The judge was absolutely fantastic. She was brutal when she spoke to them. If anybody had spoken to me like that, I'd have crumbled. She annihilated them one by one, picked them off and just told them exactly who, you know, what they were and how low they'd gone.
Chantel Booth, Daniel Newstead and Joe Boyer are found guilty of murder and given life sentences. Chantel is told she'll spend a minimum of 21 years in jail. Daniel Newstead will spend 20 years locked up. And Joe Boyer, 16 years. The other two, Duncan Edwards and Jessica Linus, are convicted of manslaughter. They get 15 and 13 years respectively. All five are found guilty of assault occasioning actual bodily harm.
All five of them just went to absolute pieces, and I think the enormity of what had just happened. I think right up until that last moment they thought that they were, I don't know, they've been inside for a year already, they'd probably be allowed to go or something. I mean, they had no idea. And then they just went to pieces.
I don't think a lot of people expected them to actually get that and have to serve that. 25 years is a hell of a long time for a 20-year-old, isn't it?
They needed, in my opinion, putting in a room with me. That's all I wanted to do. I don't even class them as humans, as people, if I'm completely honest with you. They're living and breathing and eating and having birthdays and whatnot, and will be released one day, potentially. That's no justice for what they did.
All through the court case, what you see is that they just haven't taken what they've done seriously, because they actually have such a low estimation of who Gemma was, that in their opinion, you know, what's the big deal? So what, they murdered her? And that demonstrates just how out of touch they are with the reality of other people's perceptions. What they did was so atrocious, murdering a vulnerable, innocent, naive young woman who was loyal and trusting. It's the most heinous type of crime you can commit. And the only time they actually realise that this has been taken seriously is when they find out that they are going to serve a very, very long time in prison. It's enough to make them realise that the world did care about Gemma, and that while she doesn't have a voice of her own, there are many who'll speak for her.
My name is Sue Prince. I've been asked to speak to you today about my experience of a mother of a young vulnerable adult with learning disabilities who was a victim of hate crime.
Gemma's mother, Sue, is one of those people speaking out for Gemma. She now spends her time telling others about what happened to her daughter.
I don't want anything like this to happen to anybody ever again, and I think it probably happened to Gemma because she had learning difficulties. So it's made me realise that there are bad people in this world, you know, and I don't want anybody else to suffer like Gemma must have suffered. I don't want anybody else to lose their life, be bullied, or anything else. If I can get that across, then that's great.
Despite the campaigning, Gemma's family are struggling to come to terms with their feelings of regret and with their great sense of loss.
Just miss having a sister. I miss my mum having her daughter. And she was just cheeky. She was cheeky. She had a sparkle in her eye.
I could have shown her that I loved her more. I could have been there. I did love her. She knew. You know, every phone call would end in, "I love you." But I could have been more involved in her life. That's probably my greatest regret.
I just felt guilty that I hadn't been there and been able to stop it somehow. You know, all the warnings were there that she was vulnerable.
I'd say I'm sorry. I'd say, yeah. Sorry I wasn't there for her.
If somebody is different, whether they've got learning difficulties or they're different religion or different colour or they're just different, that isn't a bad thing.